And we are live. Tom,
Greetings, greetings.
Tom Millwood, how are you?
Good, man. Doing well, doing well.
That's great. Where are you based?
I'm down in Melbourne, down in Seaford, sort of just near
Yep.
Frankston.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so your name is Tom Millwood, is that
It
right?
is. Yes,
There you
yes.
go. I got one right. That's a change for me.
That's
Um,
an easy one.
yeah. What do you do with yourself?
So I'm a life coach, Reiki master, all the dances of those kind of things. But I'm now basically focusing on that path or that space of helping people out in the process of growing, getting through challenges and that sort of thing. Having very similarly come from the tradie space of, a Sparky by trade, and have had all the challenges that came along with trying to be the square peg fitting in the round hole. That's
Do you want to tell us about that journey? Take us back to the beginning.
oh, how far the beginning would you like to go?
Oh, well, let's just go to the start of this life.
Yeah. Oh well, this wasn't even the best one.
Mm.
So I grew up family of tradies, standard sort of thing for a lot of people in this country, and the standard thing, your parents want more for you. They want you to go to uni, get the degrees, so on and so forth. Did the dance with that, got an audio engineering degree, and then came out and was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to work for the next 4 years unpaid to sort of maybe do something with it. I was like, oh well, I'll jump into into the tradie space, and got indulged by the idea of a Sparky being the one that just makes the cash. So dove into that, and that became kind of the catalyst for my first ever real experience with depression and anxiety. More than anything, off the back of having a blue with one of the guys at work. No, no fists or anything thrown, but just literally getting pushed to the point of having to have quite aggressive words with him. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, geez, what's this like feeling in my chest that I'm getting every day going to work? Why am I like feeling sick about the idea of going to work every day? And then having that process repeat through basically the entirety of my apprenticeship and, and further. And then, as a lot of us do, the medicating, to try and escape that started to happen, which then, led me down the path of, albeit some really great and rich lessons, put me in a hospital. So,
so talk about self-medicating, I take it.
yes, the old, oh, well, it was medicine. I was on my medicine journeys. So, right. I was like very, very pseudo-spiritual in my, or not even, maybe that's not the right word, but very, was very, very hip with the now, and was, doing my ceremonial experiences with different psychedelics and all that sort of thing. And had again some great profound moments from it, but I've learned over the last few years since all that, the true lessons and the true integration come outside of that, living an actual life and not spending your time just wanting to escape into some other realm, albeit whatever it is.
Yes.
So yeah, and yeah.
So what was there a catalyst for? You said you went to hospital.
Yeah. So the process kind of began as, cool, on weekends I'll smoke some weed so that I can sort of just not think about work, which then led to pretty much a nightly, as soon as I get home from work, I have to do this because I can't shake that feeling in me, and that sort of the overwhelming nature of it. And like, I'm really grateful for it because it gave me the ability to show up for my kids in a way where I wasn't this depressed dad completely void of anything. Again, albeit weed is what it is, it still allowed me to be present and be there as a great dad and have beautiful memories of that time. But it developed, into a daily sort of thing. And then it was like, all right, what else is going to fix me? So it was, let's dive into mushrooms. Let's have, regular mushroom trips. And it was at a point where I kind of hit this like ceremony. I'd sort of figured out my little shaman ritual to get me into this space. And I was like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to show a bunch of people. And then I miscalculated the fact that edibles are just so much stronger than just smoking a billy. And as a result, just blasted myself to it wasn't even like visual, but it was just this download of like realization and that crack out of the synaptic, you know, prison that I'd been in. And it was just that glimmer of light that then was amazing. It was beautiful. It pulled me out, but it just kept falling apart and opening. So, you know, talking chakra wise, it was like my crown chakra had just been ripped open. And as a result, 3-4 days of very little sleep, very just excited about life. And it was that dissonance between depressed Tom and Tom, who's had this realization that, hey, actually things can be okay. And everybody noticed like, whoa, this happened way too quick. And even my body, you know, just couldn't keep up with it, which led to just this mental breakdown. And it, you know, then diving into the Western medical system, it led to oh, well, he's definitely got bipolar. He's definitely got this thing, you know, all these different things. He jumps around so much. And my family had seen me and they're like, that's just what he does normally. He talks a lot of shit. He just, you know, he'll tell one story and then he gets kind of into another one and he just likes to have a talk with people. And it's like, no, you should just be straight down the narrow and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it led to, you know, 6 months of being unbelievably doped up on medication. And like, I look back at it and it's insane to think just how like debilitating that was, but how some people live that way for such a long time. You know, luckily for me, it was sort of 6 months and I started to really dig myself out and then threw myself back in just because I didn't learn well enough the first time through doing some heavy breath work. And luckily that time avoided the hospitalization, but again, had that situation of like the body couldn't keep up with the, you know, the opening of that crown chakra with a lot of these different techniques that are, you know, all the rage now.
Yes.
And people don't account for that fact that it's like, all right, we're going to tear you open and then we're just going to handball you to your old life and sort of see how they deal with it. So more than anything for me, it like, my hope is that through the process of me helping other people, I can really get a feel for how it all works in a way that I can talk to people, you know, in the higher up spaces and stop the kind of shit that happened to me happening for other people. But yeah, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of it all.
Yeah, right. So like you're saying the second time was breath work induced.
Yeah. So that was old mate Stan Groff, the holotropic breath work, which is very similar to like shamanic breath work or rebirthing, except it's kind of done on steroids. So rather than the container of an hour or the container of somebody who is very accountable to you, after the fact, it was very loosely done and pretty poorly sort of managed. So, and probably too soon on my part. I'm very much one of those people who doesn't do things by halves, and it's like, all right, if we're going to do it, let's learn it all. So like when I was doing the meditations in India, like we went to India for our honeymoon with my wife and doing the meditations, like, I'm gonna try and meditate as much as I can because I need to like wring out as much as possible. And then learning like, okay, no, you've got to let it come to you. You can't force all these things. And
you need to integration.
And just like trying to sort of yang your way through everything really ends up in that that space where you hit the walls and it's like, oh, well, why isn't it working? Or you, like I did, just shred this open and then just try and have to pick up the pieces after it all. But it's been awesome to really, from there, be able to know just how to do that properly, because there's so much, if this happens, you've just got to ground yourself, do grounding activities like eat a beetroot and have a chai tea, because that's really, it's like, I don't fucking like that stuff. Like go out and dig in the thing, help somebody. It's like, that's not what I need right now. And it's that, like, those grounding practices are relative to the people who created that. who that's the thing that connects them back to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If that connects you to just fucking hating on what's going on, it's it doesn't really, serve the purpose when you're in this spiritual crisis.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you do then to ensure that you don't go too far these days?
For one, I don't do that stuff anymore, but
Yeah.
it's more than anything having I'm very, I've grown up around Hinduism and Eastern philosophy, but I'm by no means like someone who's studied it and gone headfirst into it. So my like factual knowledge is horrendous, but
Yeah.
my overall like gaining of wisdom through the process is there. And
Mm-hmm.
I've followed that sort of concept of that kind of bhakti path of like, all right, what are the lessons for me today? Like journaling, it's beaten to death, but it is the best way to just be able to sit and look at like, this is what's going on inside my head,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what's coming up. And then, almost treating it like a business. It's like, all right, well, what's working, what's not working, what are we going to do differently? And just starting to see those patterns arising.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, it's the routine, having the cold showers, having, dips in the ocean, even in the middle of winter.
Mm-hmm.
And just cultivating that practice of like actually legitimately caring for yourself in a conscious way and making decisions that it's like, okay, what am I going to do today that's actually for me? And even to the point that everything you do is for you.
Mm-hmm.
There's all those parents that are like, oh, I've got no time to work out. I didn't do this. Like, well, were you playing with your kid? Did you have to pick your kid up and put them down? That's working out. That's, and then the second they realize that, it's like, oh, wow, I actually realized I'm really fit. Like, yeah, you are.
Yeah, I realized how unfit I am when I was at my cousin's and picked up his child, and she's only 2, she's only little, and like after about 3 minutes, I'm like, oh, I need a rest,
Yeah. That off-centered weight, and then they'll go limp, and it's like,
yeah,
it's the it'll be the next step. First it was kettlebells, and they became the rage because they're like off-centered in this. Next it'll be just pick up a child and throw these kids around.
Yeah. and you also do jiu-jitsu, I see.
Yes. So I've been doing martial arts since I was like 5 or 6. Started with karate, and that, did that for nearly 20 years. And then through, as pretty much everybody does, you watch the UFC, start listening to Joe Rogan, all of that stuff, and you're like, oh, well, jiu-jitsu is obviously the next step in my, my path of enlightenment.
Uh-huh.
But getting into it and actually experiencing it, it's such a different thing to like a stand-up karate type situation. There's no light sparring. There's no light anything. You're there smushed up against another person. And obviously with all this COVID stuff, it's right now not a time that we can go to the gym and do that. It's going to be the last thing that they say, okay, nobody can fine you or give you a ticket for rolling with your best mates and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's such an awesome sport. I mean, especially for me, dealing with my anxiety and all of that, it's like a contained space to face that. Like when you've got someone who's got 15, 20 kilos on top of you, plus they know how to put their weight into your chest, and it feels like you've got 300 kilos sitting there and you've got to calmly work your way through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a beautiful training ground for that life experience that then it's like you can't do anything that my coach hasn't done to me. So I'm all good, and whatever life throws at you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, cool. I haven't yet tried jiu-jitsu. I've driven to the place where they do it. Driven away a few times.
Yep.
I haven't.
I know the feeling so much. You're sort of halfway there, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
Actually, my arm's a bit sore, my shoulder's a bit sore. You know what? I might leave it for today, and I'll try it next time.
I legitimately have concerns about getting my neck cranked and shoulders popped and all that kind of stuff too. Yeah.
And there are some gyms out there that are very, you'll be fine. Just tough it out.
Yeah.
A lot of them now are getting a lot better where it's like, no, we've, people have to actually go to work after this. And it's when you meet the guys that don't care about that. They're like, no, it's fine. Let me just tear your MCL and, or your ACL, and I'll reef your arm so that you can't pick something up the next 3 days.
Yeah, that doesn't sound any very practical.
Yeah. I mean, it's like to the exact same concept of any sort of spiritual practices. It's the people that are like, no, just like, it's fine. Just do breath of fire for like 3 hours. Go nuts. Just do it. Like, don't worry about work tomorrow. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's sweet.
Yeah. And
but
so,
it's, yeah.
So what about your, I remember on the Facebook or Instagram, I think it was, I put up if you had any weird stories that you care to share. Do you have any spiritual stories that you care to share?
Oh, sure, man. Sure. I've gotten to a spot with my sort of spiritual practice where within the way that people talk about a guru, or then the guru becomes a part of everything, and you can receive messages from the guru, from God, from whatever you want to call it, in a numerous number of ways. The way that I found was like the best to hear that voice was out in the ocean, especially in the middle of winter, because the cold kind of just wipes everything out of your head and you can kind of sit above everything really well. And I had this amazing experience of, I can't remember what specifically it was that I was really freaked out about. I think I was just sort of coming back out of that second breakdown. I started to really get back into myself and get back into everything, and knew the fragility of my psyche and how if I push it too far, things can kind of go pear-shaped. And I sort of went into the ocean and was just like almost sort of communicating with the energy of ocean, and with that metaphorical, if I was talking to ocean, what it would say back. And I was just like, I might die at some point. My mind may go away from me. I'm doing everything I can not to, but that I don't have the ultimate control over what's going to happen. And no matter what, there's going to be a day when I'm not here. And was just sitting there with nothing else around. Like, you know what? It's awesome that my kids are going to have this beach to come to and be like, you know what? Dad's going to be here. Like, this is where Dad went, and he was jumping in the water like a crazy psycho in the middle of winter. And like, we can't believe he used to do that stuff, but he was that guy in Seaford who just would always do that. And then I had this just moment where the ocean spoke back to me and was like, I'm not here forever either. Like, don't think that I'm going to be here to cater for the generations of your, children and their children to come. There's going to come a point where I'm gone as well. And I just had this real, okay, no, you know what? Like, me trying to grasp onto this idea that like, oh, well, the ocean's always going to be there, and that'll just, that's going to be the energy that'll take care of everything. And just completely humbled the crap out of me. And it was the first time I really had that reciprocal nature back from the ocean. And then since there, it's almost become a portal or an anchor to that guiding voice for me. And I had it just before my latest son was born, and we were going for a home birth for him and all of that. And we had some friends who were having a baby then as well. And I went into the water and was just really worried about it all. And like, I hope that they don't have to have a Caesar, and I hope that it all goes fine for us. And again, that sort of ocean / the voices of the children came through and was just like, well, what's wrong with that? We're fine. We're doing good. We're feeling awesome. You're the one who's creating drama over all this. and just had that moment again, like, God damn it. Okay. Yeah, I've message received that I'm trying to hold on to and control this situation. And, like, I've had experiences with, not personally, but with stillborns and all that sort of thing, and appreciate the nature that sometimes that's just a part of what happens in life. And having that voice come through while I was there in the ocean was such a, in that spiritual thing, very, very calming and very enlightening to yet again a way that I kind of had trapped myself into really trying to force something out and trying to force, a circumstance to come up that I ultimately had no control over.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then there's all the, in terms of wacky spiritual stuff, there's all the psychedelic side of things, which, goes into many different realms.
Yeah, no doubt. And so do you still practice a daily swimmer in the ocean now?
So I cut my dreads like a month ago, and was part of the thing with that was like, sweet, I can go in the water every day now. I'm going to get up in the morning and do it. And I cut my dreads just before it started to get real cold.
Uh-huh.
So the ego side of me is waking up like, yeah, oh, it's a bit chilly today. Maybe we'll go in the afternoon and that. But I'm a minimum once a week, and now I'm really starting to get over that hill of the stress of like, oh, it's too cold. So the goal is for me now, I'm like, that's my sort of intention I've set, that it'll be a daily, be it morning or afternoon thing, that I just get down there and jump in, because it is so, talking about before, it's such a grounding thing, because it just puts you in your body. There's no way that you're not, when the water's that cold, to not be like, okay, yeah, here I am right here and now. There's nothing else to really stress about.
Yeah, I was doing it down in Melbourne last year before I moved up here. It might be the reason why I moved up here. Might have just had that reflex of like, get away from this cold, you idiot. But no, it was really beautiful, and I did it every day religiously, so it was really powerful to see the resistance come up, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this, and then you get in and you get it done, and it's like, oh, it's great,
Yeah. It is exactly that thing where it's one of those things that sucks leading up to it, and to a degree while you're in it kind of sucks, but then the second that you're just with it, it's the best thing ever. And then getting out, you feel $1,000,000. Same, I mean, even just cold showers, it's the same thing. It just...
See, I'd much rather jump in the way colder ocean than get into a cold shower. I don't know why. I just don't like the water falling on me and being cold in the shower. I'd rather be in the ocean and just jump into it,
What was it like for you in India? Like, did you, because like when I was there, it was just pretty much just cold showers, because they had like a solar tank on the top that had about 30 seconds of hot water for you, and that was it. So we just kind of had to have cold showers or just bucket ourselves. Or did you just go Gunga?
It wasn't too bad. Gunga was good. Gunga wasn't too cold, and the showers worked, so it was all right.
Sweet.
Yeah. Got lucky.
Yeah, they just roughed us out, the one that we were at, I guess. Like,
yeah.
Learn the hard way.
Yeah. So what about you? You personally, you said you do life coaching. We'll talk a little bit more about that, what you specialize in.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people that's very autodidact in terms of like, I like to learn things myself and not have to follow a structure. So I've, pretty much since I fell into that space of being depressed, wanting to figure it out, have dove into every possible concept and way of, processing and getting through challenges or obstacles. And then have really landed myself in a space where now I've kind of cultivated it into a concept of like, sort of the moniker I have is serving self. So in the exact same way you sort of think of Hanuman as he is sort of the great servant to Ram, that we have within us a higher self that is calling us to a greater purpose, a greater, richness of life, not necessarily in a rich and famous kind of way, but just in a life well lived. And through the process of aiming towards that, instead of going the like the Gary V hustle and just cold call everybody until you get to that higher self space, I really appreciate and understand where our like smaller self or the inner child or the ego plays the role within that. And that, again, sort of jumping between a few different styles here, that within like the Jung concept of it's individualization, that you're becoming the piece that is part cheat code video game version of yourself, and part you that's lived all the experiences of childhood, of trauma, of imprintations and so on. And once you gain that awareness of, the things from your childhood, that it's like, oh, well, this is just a part of who I am, and I can certainly work on it and certainly try and, better myself towards not being as, grumpy about people who talk down to me or whatever it is. But instead of it being one of those things where a lot of people have that idea, like, oh, well, once I meditate and I become, spiritual, or once I do this coaching thing, then like, I'm never going to worry about it again. I'm going to go see the psychologist and he's going to tell me about something. And then I'm never, ever in my life, ever going to come up against another circumstance that'll challenge me that way, because it's done. It's like, no. It'll keep coming up and it'll keep coming up. And it's just, it's another chance to either stuff up and fall into whatever practice you don't like doing, and being like, oh, cool. Okay. What is there to learn out of this? How did I fall back into that? Why did I fall back into it? Is it because I haven't been taking care of myself? Is it because I, haven't faced it in this type of a situation, or I just got blindsided by, somebody I didn't expect, to say a certain thing to me.
Yeah.
And kind of enjoying that process, that in the, like the Ram Dass, so someone cuts you off in traffic and it's like, so here's another challenge with that, that you embrace life with that kind of nature. And then, especially, I mean, now with the way that everybody's so heightened and everybody's in a space where some people are just ready to snap, in an instant. And I had that last week, the dude at 7-Eleven who just went off his rocker, and being able to kind of, open your heart into that space and open your heart into, okay, this is just another side of the, the puzzle that I wasn't aware of, that I wasn't expecting to, get as I was filling up my petrol at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. I guess there is the tendency to get stuck in the healing mode, and knowing that we have to live while the healing's taking place. We can't wait till the healing's finished to start living. Yeah.
And that it's that the healing isn't like one and done. It's not, you go to a Reiki session and they unblock a chakra, and then it's, they've reinforced it with titanium and it's never going to get blocked up again.
That's right.
It's like, nah, this is an ongoing process, and life is going to constantly be putting different stuff through the chakric pipes that are going to clog you up. And you're going to have to get back in there and, get your drain man in whatever way that comes through for you in life to, to clear it all out, to move back into that space where you're not, held back by whatever it is that the situation is. Like for me, a lot of the time it's that pressure, in the same way that with the breathwork, I put the pressure to just get as much as I could out of it. I catch myself now where it's like, I set a goal for something and then I notice straight away the motivation dips down, and it's like, okay, I've put so much pressure on myself, and it went from being something that I could do and something to be excited about to I should do and I have to do, because if I don't, my mind's made a million different problems with it. And it's being able to not necessarily ever, stop it from happening, but catch it quicker and quicker. Same way with meditation, that you start to catch your mind wandering in a faster stance, and sometimes it takes, you go 6 days later and you're like, oh crap, I bloody wait, like what was I doing before? Oh yeah, ram. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So you coach people. What's I don't know if we answered the question.
So in terms, so what I so I basically do one-on-one coaching, just an hour at a time. The beautiful thing, regardless of the lockdown, is it was pretty much always done online anyway. So it's been one of those things that's kind of seamlessly just flowed in that space, and there hasn't been really any hiccup within that process of just, it's, business as usual. And if anything, it's been an awesome time for, as much as it's kind of brought to the surface all this lockdown and then everything else that's coming up. It's bringing to the surface all these different things. It's still just the same thing again. It's just a chance to learn and to experience and to grow.
Mm.
And for me, the people I've been working with, it's really sort of taking away the drama that goes on in your head about it all, and just like, all right, well, what's your next step? Do you need to be kind to yourself because being at home with your family has been really challenging?
Yeah.
And, or is it like now's your time to really nail down and get something you've wanted to be getting done, make it all happen and come to at least some degree of fruition?
Mm-hmm.
And just, people had this whole like, oh no, nobody has money, so my business is going to completely tank. But if you look at the numbers of the unemployment and stuff like that, didn't really, like, it's only whatever it is, 10-15%, not to discount those people that are in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of people in the world who life has just carried on as normal. I've got a lot of friends who are really shitty because they got excited about the idea of COVID being this like great chance to have a holiday, and then the work sites didn't close down and they kept going, and it was like, what is this? But yeah, more than anything with the coaching, it's like this time it's very much been helping people through that process. But I really, within the process of the hour talks that I have with people, find a way that either their small self's coming through in a way that it needs to be heard and it needs, to be understood, which a lot of the time, just from talking to someone, you'll pick up on the story that they're telling themselves about their life, or the story of how, be it they're a victim to circumstance, or like the breakthrough I had with my first coach was, he was like, you always say the hard thing is. And the second that he said that, it was like the glass shattered. Same way, you're dating somebody and someone goes, oh, have you noticed she sniffs all the time? And I go, what do you mean? And then all of a sudden, all you notice is just that girl going, and it's like, oh, and I had that moment of like, oh my God, I've literally been spending the last however long it had been starting every sentence with the hard thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing that I try and do when I'm working with people and coaching them is cracking those little patterns that are there, not to stop them completely, but just create that awareness, and then you make the game out of it. So I constantly talk about like playing hide and seek with your small self, that you kind of find it and you're like, oh cool, I found it, that's really great. I realized that whatever from my past has come up again, and this, my boss is actually acting like my dad. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Your small self showed that. Now he's going to hide somewhere else in life for you.
Yeah.
Go out and live life and find it. And when it comes up,
Mm-hmm.
it's a funny thing and it's a joyful thing that you kind of have a laugh about. You're like, oh, fucking hell. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is again. Here's this, this side of me that I thought maybe I'd gotten over and it was completely healed, that it's here again. Cool. What's the process of either learning from it or letting it be heard so I can move forward again?
Cool.
So,
and
yeah.
how do people find you for coaching sessions?
So I'm just on Instagram is t.om Millwood.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise it's tommillwood.com, or I've got servingself.com as well, so they can get to me through those to have a chat and have a little dance and a feel into what is possible when they can break those synaptic prisons that we've put ourselves in, and kind of create a nice rich palette of opportunity with it all.
Beautiful. Awesome. One last thing, do you have a favorite spiritual wisdom or quote for us?
I would say probably the biggest one that constantly goes for me is, and I always get them mixed up, but it kind of sits with both, is sabek or tatwamasi. So, and that too. And constantly opening yourself to everything that comes up for you is another chance for growth and another chance for learning. We
Say
constantly
that
find
again.
this. So it's tatwamasi
Uh-huh.
and sabek.
Uh-huh.
So I think sabek is all one.
All right.
And then tatwamasi is, and that too, from memory. Again, I'm horrible with my Sanskrit, but it's just that, that idea of everything is here for learning, for growth, and that when you flip the switch from poor me to like, how lucky am I that I get to experience this thing and I get to figure out a way to enjoy this thing,
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've learned to enjoy the cold ocean.
Yeah.
Good Lord, you know, no one knows how I've done that, but somehow I've flicked this switch in my brain to make it happen. And that's the biggest, most favorite thing I have, is like anybody who has that resistance. It's like, all right, sweet, let's find a way that I can make you smile about this.
Mm-hmm.
I can make you smile when you get kicked in the gut. You know, when you go to jiu-jitsu training and someone is choking you out, you just have a laugh about it,
Mm.
and really opening into the, as you know, the joy of discomfort within life.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. I like
Awesome.
it. Thank you very much for joining us today. Unless you have any extras to add before we wrap it up.
No, man. I think that's it. I really appreciate you having me on to have a chat with you and stuff. It's been awesome.
No problems, man. Much enjoyed. Have a good
Yeah.
one.
You too, man. You too.